When I think female empowerment and Game of Thrones, my mind immediately goes to Daenerys Targaryen. But upon closer inspection, she's arguably one of the worst examples of this in the entire show. Let me explain. Here's the thing about female empowerment that people seem to forget. It's not so much about being female as it's about being empowered.
That noun has no gender.
The label female empowerment has created this bizarre idea that there's a special kind of empowerment that only applies to women, when in reality, empowerment is about agency, capability, and growth, regardless of gender.
I'm a girl.
Boy, girl, you are a sword, that is all.
The medieval time period is a great stage to explore female oppression for obvious reasons.
Back in our day, you weren't a real man until you'd f***ed one girl from each of the 7 kingdoms and the Riverlands.
But hard truths cut both ways, Sir Davos, and in order to make an impact when proving the haters wrong, it's also important to point out when they're not.
I don't distrust you because you're a woman. I distrust you because you're not as smart as you think you are.
Early Game of Thrones was one of those rare shows that actually understood this. They created authentic female characters and set them on compelling paths to power that pushed the limits of their world.
Strange that I have to say this, it's sort of a weirdly radical statement, but women are people, and they're driven by the same desires that drive men.
What they didn't do was create strong female characters TM by giving them overpowered abilities or toxic masculine traits. You know, until they started doing exactly that.
You want a good girl, but you need a bad p***y.
Let's start with Daenerys. In Season 1, she's a brilliant example of female empowerment done right. Yeah, I know I just said she is the worst example, which is still true, but in Season 1 she's doing great. After being forced into marriage with a Dothraki warlord, she endures tremendous hardships until one day when she decides to take charge and reclaim her life. She finds that fire inside her to turn her abusive husband into her lover. She stands up to her bullying brother and immerses herself in Dothraki culture, learning their language and earning her place as their queen.
Not a queen, a Khaleesi.
This is authentic empowerment because Daenerys finds agency within her oppressive circumstances, through emotional growth, intelligence, and courage, as opposed to her entitled little shit of a brother who travels to the same places and meets the same people without learning or earning anything.
Woman, kill these Dothraki dogs! I am your king!
He was no dragon. He didn't know anything about anything.
The season culminates in the loss of her unborn son and the heart-wrenching decision to smother Khal Drogo after he becomes a hollow shell of himself. When she walks into Drogo's funeral pyre with the dragon eggs, she offers more than just her husband's body to the flames. It's a symbolic offering of the life she spent the whole season building. The hard-earned knowledge that only death can pay for life and the willingness to relinquish everything dear to her creates the conditions necessary for the miraculous hatching of her dragons, making it feel like she earned that bag.
Blood of my blood.
But already in Season 2, everything changes. From here on out, Daenerys' journey shifts from earned empowerment to mostly exploiting male vanity and stupidity, whereas someone like Yara Greyjoy has to continually prove herself and lead by example. Daenerys accumulates her power through inheritance, magic, and the adoration of men, resulting in army after army all but jumping into her lap. At the gates of Qarth, Saros Oandoxus vouches for her out of lust and ambition.
I will vouch for her, her people, and her dragons.
That whole storyline ends with her escaping from the House of the Undying, not through strategic thinking, but through Dragon Ex Machina.
Dracarys.
In Astapor, an army of Unsullied is literally handed to her because Master Kraснess is too arrogant to think that the Targaryen chick might actually understand her family's mother tongue. And also fails to expect fire to come out of a dragon.
Dracarys.
In Yunkai, she snaps up her next army in the Second Sons, no thanks to tactical brilliance or superior leadership, but because Daario Naharis and his fellow captains had, philosophical differences.
Over what?
Your beauty.
To be fair, Daenerys successfully takes the city of Meereen by encouraging the slaves to rise up, which is certainly
Wise move.
And later, after being captured and brought to Vaes Dothrak, her escape plan is a step in the right direction. Without her dragons to do the work for her this time, the initiative to burn down the hut with herself and her captors in it does show courage and agency. But at the end of the day, Dany being fireproof is just another magical solution that her opponents could have never predicted. While her time in Meereen does challenge her ideology and teaches her to compromise, it doesn't result in any lasting consequences that carry over to her conquest of Westeros, apart from more armies, and now ships.
Has the Iron Islands ever had a queen before?
No more than Westeros.
You son of a bitch!
There's a missed opportunity here for a powerful arc of How to Train Your Dragon, where Daenerys could have had the chance to explore her Valyrian heritage and really earn her dragon power. But instead, the previously unruly dragons magically return to her right on cue, perfectly tame and coordinated, without Daenerys having to lift a finger. By season 7, Daenerys' victories, like everything else in the show, become increasingly contrived and random. She doesn't outthink or outlast her enemies, she's just the only one with weapons of mass destruction, her biggest challenge being not to crush her enemies too hard.
I am not here to be Queen of the Ashes.
There are many missed opportunities for her to wrestle with the challenges of leadership in wartime, like having the dragons and the Dothraki army be difficult to control, making it increasingly hard to take Westeros without seeming like a tyrant. The final betrayal of her character comes with her transformation into the Mad Queen, as she officially goes crazy from hearing the enemies ring the bells of surrender, a collapse happening so fast it sucks the meaning out of her entire journey. Instead of exploring how power corrupts and showing us someone who gradually loses everything, the show crammed what should have been years of development into less than 2 episodes.
I'm here to free the world from tyrants. That is my destiny, and I will serve it no matter the cost.
The empowerment part of Daenerys' journey really is confined to season 1. And for all her might, she didn't become empowered, she became overpowered. She was the one who was going to break the stereotypes.
To break the wheel.
But instead, she ended up becoming just another supervillain.
You're not different. You're just more of the same.
There's a difference between power and empowerment. Having power is all well and good, but empowerment entails a journey of acquiring it. And whether this is done well, all depends on how it goes down. Arya's journey in season 1 lays the groundwork for what could have easily been the show's most consistent portrayal of earned female empowerment. But in a way, her character was massacred more brutally than her brother and mother ever were. The only way they could have made her any more a caricature would have been to dye her hair. Straight out the gates, Arya defies convention more than most, preferring archery and swordplay to needlework.
Sansa can keep her sewing needles. I've got a needle of my own.
And what makes her empowerment authentic is that she rejects societal expectations because she knows who she is and who she's not.
Can I be Lord of the Holdfast?
You will marry a High Lord and rule this castle.
No, that's not me.
Her sword fighting lessons with Syrio Forel are a nuanced example of acquiring new skills, such that a girl shouldn't even possess in this medieval world, through hard work, discipline, and practice. And she experiences genuine danger and vulnerability when Syrio is killed, making his shared knowledge feel even more precious.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
Her empowerment feels earned because we see her do the work and the price she pays for it all. In season 2, her survival on the King's Road and at Harrenhal doesn't depend on magic or men tripping over themselves for her sake, but on quick thinking and adaptation, as demonstrated with her interactions with Tywin Lannister and Jack and Hagar.
Give a name, any name.
And you'll kill them.
I swear it.
All right. Jack and Hagar.
Unname me, please.
I'll unname you, if you help me and my friends escape.
Resourcefulness and pragmatic strength like this is something we see particularly in the wildling women, like Ygritte and Osha, survivors who embody a kind of empowerment born from harsh necessity rather than formal training.
That's not how you skin a rabbit.
I know how to skin a rabbit.
You grow up north of the wall, you'll learn the proper way to handle game.
Season 3 begins her exploration of the moral costs of vengeance. Unlike Daenerys, Arya must grapple hands-on with what her pursuits of justice is costing her in terms of her humanity.
Oh shit.
By exploring her growing comfort with violence, the show represents authentic empowerment precisely because it acknowledges the costs of power. Her unlikely bond with the Hound is a great example of her ability to adapt to the realities of the world while staying true to herself and making new allies.
And that's what you're doing? Watching over her?
Aye, that's what I'm doing.
Season 5 initially continues this development with her training to be a faceless man at the House of Black and White, where she struggles to master new skills and having her identity repeatedly challenged.
Who are you?
No one. Ow!
Similarly to Daenerys in Season 1, Arya faces tremendous hardships in her new environment. But there is a crucial difference here. While Daenerys learned the Dothraki language, Arya doesn't learn the Braavosi language or immerse herself in the local culture, other than the surface-level catcalling by the canals.
Oysters, clams, and cod!
How much for your little clam?
This is a sign of missed opportunities to come, as her training is kind of limited to combat skills and lying without exploring the comprehensive education shown in the books, where she learns about poisons, impersonations, and has a language exchange with her fellow student, the Waif. Making the Waif the closest thing to a friend Arya has in Braavos would, of course, have made things so much more dramatic and interesting when they are later pitted against each other.
I can't see.
Well, that's your problem, not mine.
Season 6 marks the infamous turning point when Arya gets fatally stabbed repeatedly and thrown into a filthy canal, only to rest up and shake it off a couple days later. This begins the transformation from a character who earns her successes to generic overpowered twink.
That won't help you.
If you've been following this channel, you know that I will never not talk about how it would have been so much better if Arya returned to the House of Black and White wearing the Waif's face instead of returning as herself. That would have shown genuine mastery of the skills she supposedly learned over the last 2 seasons. And it wouldn't require a contradictory moment of being acknowledged as a faceless man for doing the exact opposite of what's expected of one.
Finally, a girl is no one.
In Season 7, the massacre of the Freys comes at virtually no cost whatsoever, which doesn't pack anywhere near the same punch as her previous victories. Like when she killed Meryn Trant without permission in Season 5, and the Faceless Men punished her by making her blind. That was a testament to her integrity and another meaningful cost of progress.
If a girl says her name, the men will give her eyes back.
A girl has no name.
Then it goes completely off the rails with Arya sparring with Brienne. She's now portrayed as a master swordsman, despite the fact that we haven't seen her practice with needles in Season 4.
Who taught you how to do that?
No one.
In Season 8, she also gets a gratuitous sex scene for some reason, with a character who was like an older brother last time they met, no less. Like, didn't they learn anything from their failed portrayal of the Sand Snakes? And finally, Jon screams at a dragon as Arya replaces him as the Chosen One.
We hope to kind of avoid the expected, and Jon Snow has always been the hero, but it just didn't seem right to us for this moment.
Only to go back on that too when Dany becomes the final boss. This moment not only arrives at the wrong conclusion, but jumps to it as well. No pun intended. Arya's journey began as one of strong identity and unwavering integrity, but ended up making her a Disney-fied superhero, unrealistic even to a world of magic dragons and ice zombies. Sansa's journey is quietly the most revolutionary of all female characters in Game of Thrones. She starts out like an annoying little shit, somehow turning that around and becoming super relatable, only to end up being an annoying little shit again. Unlike Arya, who rejects femininity, Sansa is introduced as the perfect highborn daughter, obsessed with stories of valiant knights and dreams of the capital city.
And I'd be queen someday. Please make father say yes.
At this point, Sansa has internalized the promised bargain of a patriarchal Westeros: be beautiful, obedient, marry well, and you will be rewarded. But her dreams begin to crumble more and more as she learns that all that glitters ain't gold.
Stupid little girl with stupid dreams who never learn.
What makes Sansa's empowerment authentic is how far and hard she has to fall to learn the way the world really works. There's an interesting parallel here between her and the character Ross, who also comes to King's Landing from Winterfell to move up in the world, only under slightly different circumstances.
I grew up in the shadow of her father's castle. The day she was born, they rang the bells from sunrise till sunset.
The breaking down of her privileged life is the catalyst for her to go from stupid little girl who never learns to someone able to navigate and affect the political landscape herself. And as it happens, King's Landing is the perfect school to graduate from.
Look around you. We're all liars here. And every one of us is better than you.
Here, there are already plenty of women to learn from who've already mastered playing the game on the patriarchy's terms. Cersei may be cruel, but she's also very good at manipulating the men in office.
Tears aren't a woman's only weapon. The best one's between your legs.
Then there are the Tyrell women. Marjorie with her meticulously curated image, and Olenna, the Queen of Thorns, who practically controls House Tyrell while technically having no official power at all.
Not now, Mace. Lord Tywin and I are speaking.
These women aren't rejecting the system like Arya or overpowering it like Daenerys. They're pulling the strings from within, using their cunning and femininity to take what's theirs and take some more. All Sansa has to do is watch and learn. And her pivotal moment comes in Season 4 at the Eyrie, where she makes the conscious decision to lie to protect Littlefinger when he's questioned about her Aunt Lysa's death.
When Lord Baelish tried to calm her, she said she didn't want to live anymore. He tried to reason with her, but she stepped through those doors and she was...
It's not your fault, sweet girl. It's not your fault.
This marks her first significant exercise of agency. She does this not because she's forced to, but because she realizes that Littlefinger is a more powerful ally than these Lords of the Vale, and that she has something he wants.
Shall we go?
But in Season 5, things take a completely different turn when Baelish makes the off-color decision to marry her off to Ramsay Bolton. While this is a development that certainly makes us feel strongly for Sansa, this passage tends to be criticized for providing little more than gratuitous violence.
You've known Sansa since she was a girl. Now watch her become a woman.
Moreover, unlike her time in King's Landing, she doesn't actually learn anything from this second wave of misery. And yet, the show presents this victimization as somehow essential to her growth, suggesting that being abused makes her strong, and that being a victim of Ramsay Bolton makes her an expert in Ramsay Bolton.
I lived with him. I know the way his mind works. Did it ever once occur to you that I might have some insight?
All right, tell me. What should we do?
Don't do what he wants you to do.
That's good advice.
Now, in order for the show to take her where they clearly wanted her character to go, becoming a wise and strong and competent leader, this time would have been much better spent as Littlefinger's understudy, learning the ropes as he slowly takes over the Vale of Arryn and amassing an army that she later would persuade him to send to aid Jon when it's time to retake their home, Winterfell. Because come Season 7, Sansa has completed her transformation into a political mastermind and logistics expert without us ever seeing how she developed these skills.
We need to start building up our grain stores with regular shipments from every keep in the north.
Very wise, my lady.
Are they covering those breastplates in leather?
No, my lady.
Shouldn't they be?
Command suits you.
I don't suppose she learned all this from the same person who taught her to pick a lock with a corkscrew. Season 7's catastrophic handling of Sansa reaches its peak with the scheme of eliminating Littlefinger. This was supposed to be the moment where the student becomes the master, where we connect back to that pivotal moment in Season 4, with Sansa baiting Baelish into a trap only to yank the rug out from under his feet. Instead, we got the weirdest little charade playing out in private rooms where Sansa pretends to overthrow Jon, as if that changes what Baelish has done.
I'm a bit confused.
She even neglects the most important thing her father taught them about sentencing people to death, showing us that she's still just a stupid little girl who never learns.
I'm a slow learner, but I learn.
The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
This, if you were still wondering, is not empowerment. A true demonstration of Sansa's growth would have shown her outmaneuvering Littlefinger politically and personally, not through a narrative sleight of hand that insults the intelligence of characters and viewers alike. And in Season 8, her coronation as Queen in the North attempts to provide a satisfying conclusion to her arc, but this too feels awkward precisely because of all these underdeveloped leadership qualities. It's kind of weird how many times the show goes out of its way to outright tell us how smart she is without ever bothering to show it.
Sansa, much smarter than she lets on.
And how should I be smarter? By listening to you.
That'd be so terrible.
Many underestimated you. Most of them are dead now.
So clever. Aren't you always so clever?
She's the smartest person I've ever met.
While we've seen her suffer, we haven't seen her learn to lead, like we've seen, for example, Jon do.
I've fought beyond the wall. I've defended the wall. What should I do differently?
I don't know. I don't know anything about battles.
The tragedy here is that Sansa's potential for an authentically empowering arc was ripe for the taking. A young woman learning to transform the very feminine virtues that made her vulnerable into sources of strength and influence. Instead, the show fell back on cliches, reducing her to yet another example of a woman who is strong not because of what she's learned, but because of what she's endured. Brienne is an interesting example of someone who already possesses significant power, making her journey not about acquiring physical strength, but rather about how she chooses to wield it. In overcoming regrets and personal tragedies, her empowerment manifests in hard-earned victories and unwavering honor.
I ask the honor of a place in your Kingsguard.
Done! Her initial victory over Loras Tyrell organically shows us that she is a woman of great ability, besting a renowned knight, yet completely without snide remarks on contemporary culture or politics. While Ned Stark's rigid adherence to honor led to his death and failure to protect his daughters, Brienne's ability to adapt and overcome allows her to survive the same treacherous landscapes while maintaining her principles.
Valyrian steel.
You'll use it to defend Ned Stark's daughter. You swore an oath to return the Starkers to their mother.
Her journey with Jaime is a beautiful example of the power of changing one's mind, and her later search for the Stark girls continues her empowerment narrative through demonstrated competence. A great example is how her defeat of the Hound feels authentic because of how it's executed. There are no special effects or physics-defying moves, just raw, grueling choreography. I mean, just look at them getting exhausted and everything. What's also interesting about this fight is that it's not even framed as Brienne besting a man, as some kind of gender statement.
Killed by a woman. I bet you like that.
It's not so much a battle of genders as a matter of determination and resolve, which shows that female empowerment doesn't have to come at the expense of emasculating men, even when you knock them into the dirt like the silly little boys they are.
Absolutely singular.
This approach stands in contrast to, say, the Sand Snakes, where instead of being a cartoonish femme fatale spouting cringe-worthy one-liners about bad pussy, Brienne embodies authentic skills and values, more akin to true matriarchs like Catelyn Stark, who show that female empowerment doesn't require flamboyant theatrics or hypersexualization.
You have courage. Not battle courage, perhaps, but a woman's kind of courage.
The tragedy of Brienne's character is all the rejection and unreciprocated love she's felt for Renly and later Jaime.
Renly Baratheon, Catelyn Stark, and now my brother.
I don't serve your brother, Your Grace. Did you love him?
Her empowerment largely comes from overcoming all this and moving forward despite the heartbreak. Brienne defines herself not by who validates her romantically, but by whom she chooses to protect.
I don't serve the Starks. I serve Lady Catelyn.
I swore to your mother I would bring you home to her. I gave my word I would find you and protect you.
However, after returning Sansa to safety in Season 6, Brienne's purpose rapidly diminishes. She transitions from someone with agency and purpose to little more than a bodyguard.
Must wound your pride, now standing out there like a glorified sentry.
Finally, Season 8 comes with both the good and the really, really bad. Jaime knighting Brienne is super wholesome and ties up their journey very fittingly.
Arise, Brienne of Tarth, a knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
But, as they do, the show then completely betrays this whole thing by having Jaime suddenly reciprocate Brienne's romantic feelings and hook up with her. The bedrock of Brienne's character development was precisely her ability to define herself beyond unreciprocated love. All of that thrown away for what? Fan service. Not even the real fans either. The lickspittles who probably describe Game of Thrones as primarily being about sex and dragons anyway. Only to go back on that fan service in the very same episode.
You don't need to die with her. Stay here. Stay with me. Please.
Brienne crying in a blanket doesn't just reduce her to a damsel in distress, it undermines the very foundation of her empowerment. By trading her painstaking journey of being a true knight for romance, the show suggests that what really mattered all along was whether a man would love her back. And like, even if you're so unfathomably inclined towards romance after all, you still have to agree that the price the show paid for it was egregious. Even her appointment as Lord Commander of the King's Guard feels like a consolation prize after her real goal of romantic validation had been achieved. In the end, even the mighty Brienne of Tarth couldn't escape the show's eventual descent into gender stereotypes and the reduction of complex women to their romantic attachments. What made early Game of Thrones so special wasn't that it featured strong female characters TM, it's that it featured real characters. These women weren't defined by their opposition to men or by magical abilities to leapfrog over challenges. They were defined by their resilience, intelligence, and willingness to pay the price for power. The lesson here isn't about checking representation boxes or subverting expectations for shock value. It's about respecting the integrity of a character's journey. Because true empowerment in storytelling comes from allowing characters to try and fail and win in ways that feel authentic. In the end, Game of Thrones didn't fail its female characters because it made them suffer or whether it gave them happy endings. It failed them by stripping away the hard-fought development that made us invest in them in the first place.
Run along now. Grow strong.
If you watched this far, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, it helps my channel grow and enables me to make more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon again in another video.